In today's episode, we're going to take a look at what I sold over the last week on eBay and elsewhere, and we'll recap last week and last month's business. Let's get into it. What is up, Galaxians? Welcome to another episode of Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips. If this is your first time stumbling on the channel, welcome. My name is Ryan, and I am a full-time reseller, part-time YouTuber, and podcaster working out of my home here in the greater Cincinnati area, and this channel is all about the flip life. You have reached the midweek recap episode where we go over things I have sold on eBay and other sites over the last week and recap my business. For those of you who really like the reselling news segment, I have some bad news. There isn't any this week. There just wasn't anything that I felt was relevant to cover. I went through maybe a dozen articles and there just wasn't really anything there that I thought was relevant. So no news is good news. There's no reselling news. Speaking of programming updates, just a quick note, there will be no podcast this coming weekend. I'm giving myself the weekend off for good behavior. I'm a little burned out, to be completely fair. I talked last week about kind of knowing when to say when and managing your time and your personal time versus your business time. And I've literally been working 7 days a week for the last 6 months, either working on the eBay stuff or working on this YouTube channel or the podcast. And my brain is fried. So I'm taking the weekend off. I'm not doing anything. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm not going to be working this weekend. So hopefully you can find another channel to view over the weekend, and then we'll be back next Wednesday with another episode. But with all that out of the way, let's get into what sold on eBay. So I mentioned last week that I had gone out and done a pretty big buy of model railroad memorabilia and that I would share a few things with you this week. So these first two items came from that lot. So I've already started selling. I'm listing about 30 items a day out of that lot right now. There's a lot of old, like vintage catalogs and brochures and repair manuals. The person that I bought these from, it was an estate that the gentleman had been a model railroader and had been a licensed Lionel repairman. So there's all kinds of really interesting stuff in this lot. As it turned out, I bought about 1,400 pieces total in that lot. So it's a really massive, massive bunch of stuff. These first two items, two Marklin HO catalogs. Marklin is a German company that manufactures different scales of model railroading equipment. These were the first two items I sold out of that lot. Both, I believe, in German. The one is actually multilingual. So between the two, I've got $35 for that whole lot. I only spent $65. Since these two items sold, I have subsequently sold several more pieces, and I'm already in the money on this lot with about 10 items sold out of the roughly 1,200. So my average cost of goods sold on these brochures and magazines is going to be about 5 cents a piece. So these don't look necessarily like big winners at $15, $20 a piece, but when your cost of goods sold is a nickel, they're kind of fun. Next up, I went to a bunch of thrift stores a couple of weeks ago, and fun story, while I was on my way to another one, driving by the dealership where I used to work, my SUV broke down. So there's some good timing. I pulled it in there, managed to limp it in there, got it fixed, messed up my whole day. I didn't get all the thrifting done that I wanted to, but I did manage to pick up a few items, and this is the first of that batch that has sold. Patriarchs and Prophets, Volumes 1 and 2. It's a book from the 1970s. I picked these up at a local thrift store called Valley Thrift. I paid 49 cents a piece for these, sold them in a lot for $21.99 with free shipping. Next up, there was a time, for a brief moment in time, where this was one of the biggest bands in the world, And then somehow they became a total joke. They still, however, command some pretty decent money. Everybody, Wang Chung tonight, the best, actually, Wang Chung's greatest hits from 1997. This is on Geffen Records. It was a brand new sealed in pack CD. I own it for 3.5 cents. It went for $23 with free shipping on a best offer. You go back and listen to some of these guys' early stuff, if you're into music at all. Some of it's actually still pretty decent. Check out the To Live and Die in LA soundtrack EP. There's some really amazing stuff on that particular album. Moving on, another CD. This one sold on Bonanza. I've talked about Bonanza several times in the past. There's actually an affiliate link in the description below. If you're not on Bonanza, click that link, go over there. You can import your listings directly from eBay. It syncs. Every time you sell something on eBay, it removes it from Bonanza and vice versa. It is literally the easiest money you will make as a reseller. This PKO, The Good, the Bad, the Mafia, a new CD. You may remember several months back, I sold one of these on eBay. I don't remember how much I sold it for, if I took an offer, or if I sold it for full price. This one went for $39.99 with free shipping. This was an interesting item. I almost didn't list this. And then I remembered that in one of my videos, I said that sometimes even damaged books can sell. So I had this book from the 1800s. The title page, the copyright page, all of that was actually missing from the book. I was able to date it just based on a gift inscription that was on the front inside cover that this book had been given, I think, in 1848. So it's a really, really old book. It was super rough. The spine, the cover was completely missing. Pretty bad shape. It appeared that other than those first couple of pages, however, all of the pages were in there. So I went ahead and listed this thing at an auction. I think I started it at $19.99. It went all the way up to $46 with customer paid shipping. The History of Virginia. Really interesting piece. It was the first, apparently, in a volume of books that were coming out kind of on the original 13 states or whatever it was. But another one of those examples where an older book, even in rough shape, can bring some money. So I'm glad I listened to my own advice. This next item. Here's a screenshot of a YouTube thumbnail from a video that I did way back at the end of May when I bought this jug. I was super excited about getting this jug. I got it for $10 and I thought, this thing is going to be great. And man, it sat here and sat here and sat here. I sent out multiple offers on it. It had all kinds of watchers, but nobody would buy it. Finally, last week, somebody bought it for $69.99 plus UPS shipping. It took way too long to get rid of, but all said and done, it was a fairly profitable sale. It's not the, 100x or whatever that I make on some of the books I sell, but at the end of the day, after the little bit of profit that I made on the shipping, it was about a $65 net profit sale. So we'll definitely take that. Cool old jug, vintage. Probably not really usable, but a really interesting piece from the Little Brown Jug Company. And now, your flip of the week. Again, on Bonanza. Go check it out, I'm telling you. This was a set of junior encyclopedias. It was a 20-volume set condensed into 10 books from 1960, the Grolier Book of Knowledge. I picked these up was in a big lot. I own them for 25 cents a piece. So I've got $2.50 in this lot. It sold for $64.99 with free shipping. I know what you're thinking, Ryan, a big lot of books of encyclopedias. The shipping was probably outrageous. It was about $20 to ship this thing. All said and done, after fees and shipping and everything, I still made $37 on this deal. It's not money that you can retire on, but it still can be a profitable sale. So, and that's where the market was. I've talked about in the past that something is only worth what it's worth. And this set of books, they were on there. Most sellers were anywhere from $59 to $79 with free shipping. So for me to be competitive, that's where they had to be. I tend to offer free shipping on most, if not all of my media items. If I've got the only one, and I've talked about this before, if I literally have the only one, I'll generally charge for shipping because there's no competitive disadvantage to not. But in a case like this, where there were several others, I offered free shipping. Again, I had a bunch of good pictures. This thing sold again on Bonanza. I lucked out. They were running some kind of promotion. My fees for Bonanza were like 3% or 3.4% instead of whatever their normal is. So it was a nice sale for the flip of the week. With that, we're going to take a quick break. For those of you listening to the podcast, then we'll be back with the weekly and monthly business recaps. Stay tuned. All right, so let's talk about my business. Last week actually turned out to be remarkably good. It was one of those weeks, it was kind of disjointed. It didn't feel like it was all that busy. And maybe that's because I was doing more business in places that I ordinarily don't do a lot of business in, and a little less on eBay. So it was a really, really weird week. But when it was all said and done, it turned out pretty good. Listings. I got started on that big lot of model railroad stuff that I talked about earlier. So listings for last week, I was kind of back on a little bit more of a normal path. I did 110 listings last week. So Monday, I only did 10. Tuesday, I didn't do any because I was on the road all day picking that stuff up and then recording a video for all y'all. And so Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I really cranked out the listings and got to 110 for the week. So really, really good. I'm pleased with that. Sales for the week were ahead of the normal pace, $15.12 and 75 cents. So pretty solid week. Coming kind of from everywhere. So I made $20.12 from the podcast. I made $34.84 from the Westchester Antique Mall from my booth. I made $45 on a Facebook marketplace sale. I had a couple of old rock band guitars that I had no way to test. I didn't know if they worked, so I threw them up there. The guy reached out and he said, yeah, I would be interested in those. Do you have anything else? I also had a set of drums for rock band that I hadn't been able to test. And I'm like, if you want all this stuff, I'll sell it to you for $45. So I probably lost some money on that. Had I had a way to test them, I know they're worth more money than that, but I was happy to just get them out of my way. Bonanza, $158.23. Again, it's not big money, but that's essentially $160 in sales that I would not have had I not cross-listed everything to Bonanza. So again, link in the description below. Go check it out. And lastly, eBay was $12.54.56. So a little soft on eBay last week, but all in a really solid week. Cost of goods sold for the week, $59.29, which left me with a gross profit of 96.08%. So still really, really solid, $14.53 and 46 cents. Operating expenses for the week were a little high. I decided to buy some more shelving for my garage. So I spent another, almost $300 on some more rolling racks so that I could get literally everything up off the floor. I'll probably do one more hit of those so I can clean out my dining room. But operating expenses for the week totaled $814.56. Most of it, again, typically your outbound shipping and eBay fees, but I did have almost $300 in some more rolling racks. So a little high there, but even those things don't necessarily lead directly to profit or increased sales. They do represent time savings and efficiency for me. So net, they're definitely worth the investment. And I should have done it a long time ago. So for the week, net profit, 42.23%. So a little bit off because of those racks, but still, again, kind of within what I would have expected, $638.90. So not a bad week in terms of profit dollars, all things considered. January from a profit standpoint is going to look a little ugly because I spent a lot of money on kind of stuff. Racks for the garage on 2 occasions, bookshelves for the antique booth, the antique booth actually charged me February's rent in January, so I got double hit for rent. So my fees in that are pretty high for January. Sales for the month of January, $57.72 and 59 cents. So pretty reasonable. I will take that. About $70 odd from YouTube and the podcast, $45 from Facebook Marketplace sales, $184.05 from the Westchester Antique Mall. So I paid for all of my first month's rent and part of my second month's rent. So I was really pleased with how that is going. $199.54 on Bonanza, the bulk of that obviously last week, and eBay for $52.73.88. So all in all, a pretty decent month. Cost of goods sold for the month, $187.94 for a net profit gross profit percentage of 96.74%, $55.84 and 65 cents. I'll take that. I was pretty pleased with January. When you look at the, the eBay, versus your last 30 days, of course, versus December, it didn't look all that great, but it was well in line with what I would normally expect. Operating expenses for the month, $37.59 and 32 cents. They were a little bit high because of all of the racks and the shelves. I spent $1,214.97 just on fixtures and hardware for the antique booth and for the garage, the basement, the whatever. So I spent a lot of money last month on that stuff. Also, like I said, 2 months worth of rent essentially for the antique booth, $319.42. So that was a little kind of an unexpected, extraordinary expense compared to normal. Everything else was right in line. About $900 in eBay and PayPal fees, and almost $1,300 in outbound shipping, UPS, USPS. So I spend a fortune. I'm pretty in shipping, as I'm sure most of you do as well. So for the month, net profit was only 31.62%. So off of the 50% where I would normally like to be, but I know where that money went. So it's not one of those things where you look at that number and you say, oh my gosh, what happened? I know exactly what happened and I'm cool with it. Net profit dollars for the month, $18.25.33. So even with all of that, not a terrible month. I wouldn't want that number month after month, but again, knowing where the money was spent and how it was spent, I think it was money well invested. I didn't buy a bunch of GameStop stocks. I can lose my shirt on that. I told somebody the other day I should have shorted GameStop when it was up around $400. But nonetheless, that's your recaps for January. Let us know in the comments what kind of January you had. Was it up? Was it down? Once you got through all the returns, what did your month look like? With that, like I said, just a reminder, there will be no podcast this weekend. I'm going to take some time off. And now it's time to sell. Thanks, guys. Hey, everybody. Thanks for spending a little time with Galaxy CDs, rocks, and flips. If you'd like to spend a little more time, there's another video in the upper right-hand corner. If you'd like to spend a lot more time, you can subscribe down below.